Phantom Sounds Production. What up, sound? What up, sound?
You are on the show. Hit that plus sign. You are on the show. Making sure you hit that plus sign at the end on Queen Feisty. You are on the show. Make sure you hit that plus sign. Hello and welcome y'all to the Red Room Talk, y'all. This is the season 5 premiere. I'm so excited to be here with you guys. The Red Room Talk is a show about love, intimacy, and interpersonal relationships, including self. We are here to have candid discussions and cut through stigmas to show that in the end, no matter what your background, we all have commonalities when it comes to matters of the mind and heart. Last episode, if you missed us, that's okay. You can find us on YouTube by following the link in my profile to my Instagram. And also, follow us on YouTube by clicking on the Instagram icon. Last episode, we did talk about men versus women. But this week, we are going to get deep. This week, we're going to discuss breaking down the stigma surrounding men's mental health, which with this week's topic, men's mental health, the double-sided mirror. We're going to come from both angles. We're going to come from the angle of men and women discussing tonight's topic. It has always been a hush-hush subject to discuss issues surrounding men's mental health, but tonight we're going to open it up and include women, and hopefully we leave with a better understanding of men. Tonight in the Red Room, we have an all-star cast. We have G-Way, we have Mr. Everything, we have Lex the Gentleman, and last but not least, we have QOD's Queen Feisty. Let's find out the inside look on men's mental health from both sides of the mirror. First things first, all I'm going to ask is that you keep your mind open and your language clean. If you are on the show, go ahead and hit that plus sign, y'all, and we will get started.
S5E1. What up? What up? What up? Salute, salute. Shout out to everybody at the show today. Let's get it.
Salute to the room.
All right,
Get it
Queen
right.
Feisty, go ahead and hit that plus sign. Hopefully, it's letting her in because some people are having trouble getting in. Okay, there we go. Hello, everybody. I'm so excited to have you guys here. Of course, on the Red Room, we are polite and we let women go first. What we're going to do is I'm going to have you guys introduce yourselves. Let me know anything you guys got going on with your live, or going on in your show, any events that you have. So go ahead, Queen, and we will start with you because we do let ladies go first. Even though this is a men's episode, we're going to let ladies go first because we are polite, okay?
Well, hello. Thank you, and thank you for having me on your show. Hi, guys. I'm Queen Feisty. I do have, excuse my voice. I was doing a lot last night, so trying to get my voice back. I do have a show that is tomorrow. It's called Soulful Sundays. It's at 10:30 Eastern AM. Please make sure you guys tap in. It's just cleaning off all the negative energy off of you for the week and getting some positive energy for you for the rest of the week. And then you can also catch me on Fridays in KOD King Drips Live for the Dream Lounge. I do read poetry over there. And then coming up as well in Lex the Gentleman's Live on the 30th, I will be in there reading some poetry as well. So you can catch me also on Friday nights in my stream for the Dream Cloud, which is just a networking fave party. So just come through, be positive, and catch a vibe.
Awesome. And then we'll just go ahead and go from there. Lex, you can go ahead and introduce yourself and let us know what you got going on. And then we'll move on and we'll just work our way up.
All right. Salute everybody. It's Lex, gentlemen. Thank you, Jen and Juice, for having me on the show. Shout out to the panel. So I have a recurring show. We're in we just finished episode 3 of season 1. It's Spoken Heard with Lex the Gentleman. It is a spoken word show where we have features, we have an open mic, we do interactive poetry games, share poetry writing tips. So definitely come out and join. Queen Feisty is one of our features on the upcoming show. So just come check it out. And other than that, I stream randomly. Stream when I can, and but that's every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Spoken Heard with Lex Gentleman. We are off this week, so make sure y'all tune in 11:30. So November 30th, we'll be back on again. So
I'll definitely have to get on there. I do poetry too.
okay.
Awesome. Mr. Everything, one of my most faithful one of my most faithful casts. How you doing?
Hey Jen, how you doing? What's up, G-Way?
My boy.
Salute to the panel, everybody in the chat. So go by Mr. Everything. Right now, I'm currently working on some stuff for the new year, so stay tuned. But I stream between the hours of 10 and 2. I try to catch that lunchtime traffic with good vibes, hopefully pick you up during lunch and help you carry through the rest of the day. And then you can catch me in the evenings, sometimes between the hours of 7 and about 10. When my bedtime is set up, I'm lights out by 10:30. So if you're a nighttime streamer, we probably won't cross paths until early in the morning, but that's about it, Again, Jen, thanks for having me, and I'm definitely interested to talk about this very relevant topic.
Well, if y'all don't know me, you can get to know me. It's G-Way. No way. Everybody knows who I am, who I be. You can catch me Sundays all day Red Zone, NFL Red Zone going on Sundays. Mondays, you already know I got Hood for You season 2 jumping off. Shout out to the past champions up in here, Lex the Gentleman, Jen and Juice as well. It's the ghetto version of Family Feud. Come through, play, win a free jet every Monday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Tuesday, I got the Sports Block. Wednesday, we got Wildin' Out with G-Way. All my shows are pretty much at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can catch me on the feature show, also 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Getting Lit with King of Diamonds on Thursday, and right back in my live with the Red Light Special R&B playlist battle on Fridays. But as of course, every Saturday I'll be right here at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right next to Gin and Juice on the Red Room Talk. She-Way and no way.
Well, as you know, I am your host, Jen and Juice. You can find me every Saturday at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You got to say it that way, y'all. I need to hear Saturday at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Red Room Talk. If you don't say it like that, it doesn't count. But you can also find me every Tuesday with also my co-host G-Way. It's a show where you have to guess the name of the song and the artist with off just the beat. Then also on Thursdays, I am part of the Getting Lit Studios crew, which you can find every Thursday at 9 p.m. It's also a featured show with my twin Kingy. He's the number one bubble right now. And then Fridays, I do emoji charades with Wancho Number. He is also a featured show uh, streamer. And then, of course, as you know, Saturdays, y'all can find me right here in late nights into early mornings. But, so tonight we were talking about men's mental health. We're going to get right started now. Men are less likely than women to seek mental health help for depression, substance addiction, and stressful life events, including anxiety and trauma. There are many reasons for it, including an unwillingness to talk, social norms, existing stigma, and downplaying symptoms. But I'm fine can only get someone so far, especially since men are significantly more at risk of attempting suicide than women. Just because it's difficult to open up about mental health doesn't mean that anyone should struggle in silence. I'm going to get started with my first question being, why do you think men's mental health is so neglected or undervalued in today's society?
Anybody jump in?
Yeah, anybody?
Okay. So I think it really starts with how you raised as a young boy, how many boys are raised in today's society. I think that a lot of the term manning up is used, but it comes across where men, it turns into what's called toxic masculinity, which basically saying that men cannot it's not a real, you're not a real man if you're expressing your feelings, or if you're crying, or expressing what's going on with you. And so when boys are coming up thinking that being a man means I'm not expressing my feelings, I have to hold it in, I just had to man up and take it, it continues to stay built up and bottled up. But just like a teapot, eventually a teapot, you leave it on the stove for too long, it's going to scream. And that's what we're seeing a lot right now in society, like, is that screaming out of men that when they were boys were keeping things in, and they're holding things in, holding their emotions in, holding things in, and never let it out. So I think that's a lot of it is because of that stigma of the toxic masculinity that's been put out in society.
For sure.
Yeah. I'll caveat off of what he said. I think that's definitely where it starts. A child, a boy child becomes a man eventually, and they can only do what they've been taught, and they can only, kind of emulate what they've seen. And I think that the reason it's so undervalued is a lot of people really don't understand it. Sometimes men, we don't really understand it, but we don't understand the true value of being whole mentally, emotionally, spiritually, all those things. We know what physically fit means, but when it comes down to being mentally strong, we really don't put a lot of emphasis on that. And you don't see it until, as Lex said, until the teapot is blowing and we're reactive.
It's too late. It's too late.
So I think that a lot of times we as men, we don't know the language You know we feel real things, but a lot of times we haven't seen it communicated. So therein, we just kind of clamshell. So we don't know how to express that feeling. So um, I think that's how I would answer that question. It's definitely neglected a lot.
I would have to go ahead and agree with both of you guys on that. And a lot has to do with them not or them young men being told that they have to be strong. They can't cry. They can't, they can't express their feelings because then it's a sign of weakness, and so they really are not able to know and form the words to really just express themselves. And when it comes to their emotions, they're supposed to suppress them, is what they're taught to do. Simply. I mean, that's just my thoughts. So,
Yeah,
thank you.
I agree with the rest of everybody else. I mean, that's pretty much how I was raised. Like emotions with the men in my house, it wasn't talked about. Grandpa wasn't allowed to cry or express himself, except get a little tipsy, get a little drunk, say what you want, how you feel, but then everybody say, oh, he's just a drunk. But if he's not drunk, it's frowned upon. It's really in society they frowned upon. You're looked at as weak or wimp or no, I can't say that word, but a BAN. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, it's crazy. It's pretty much it's just how it is to me. I think that's why it's not looked upon like that because we've been raised and programmed for so long to not let it out, to keep it in. That's not the definition of a man.
So I feel like sometimes it's like the squeaky wheel gets the oil, and because men are not speaking up for themselves, which I get it, because right then you're going to be looked at as a simp or one of these other words. But I think if we start having more men speak out, and unfortunately having these conversations is what it's going to take. Having these conversations and bringing up the open. But why do I think it's so neglected? Is definitely it starts at home. And I can give an example, and this is not no shade to my brother, but it was just a day, right, where my nephew had fell and hurt himself. And even though it was something, it was just minute, it wasn't, and he was crying. And he's like, okay, you're a big boy, like, let's not cry. And I said, but you know what, Daddy, it hurt. Don't minimize the pain that he's feeling when he's expressing an emotion. And this isn't just my brother, but I've heard this from many people with little boys for their as children. You're a big boy, don't cry, or don't cry because you're a big boy. But whether that's a boy or not, they're expressing sorrow. Especially if you're feeling emotion, don't ever stop someone from expressing an emotion, because whatever it is they're feeling is significant to them, even if it's not significant to you. So I feel like that's where it starts. It starts with telling them, um, most definitely, Face. We're actually going to get to that, so hold that thought. Please keep that thought in just a moment. So hold on to that, because we're going to hit that topic next. But I definitely think it starts at home. It starts from a very young age. This needs to start at a very young age. We're talking about when kids first start expressing emotions openly and are able to form words or just express emotions if they don't form words, because there are autistic children and a variety of people. But when they start giving you emotion and they start showing signs of emotion, that's when it starts at home. When you have to allow them to speak openly when they're feeling something, you have to allow them to feel what they're feeling in the moment and allow them that platform. Not you're just tired, go to bed, or go to your room and without dinner because you're expressing an emotion that doesn't align with what I'm needing right now. Because it's not about you, Mom. It's not about you, Dad. It's what your child is feeling right now, and they are still a human being, and they're still expressing an emotion, whether it aligns with what you're feeling is appropriate or not. You can't tell me if I cry right now that it's not an appropriate response to what I'm dealing with. You see what I'm saying? Like, you have to allow children too. So yes, it starts at a very young age, and as long as you allow them to grow up with knowing that it's okay to express emotion, it's going to be easier, right? When it's repetitive, it's easier. Just like, you know, I can go to, if I go to my mom, right, and she allows me to express myself, the next time, go ahead and do that. The next time she's gonna be, I'm gonna be more apt to tell her, right, because she openly allowed me that space. But if I come to you, right, and you shut me out and shut me down, what do you think is going to happen next time?
Right.
I'm not going to want to come to you because you've showed me that you're going to shut down the emotions I'm feeling, and then it's not important to you. So I think it starts at home. It starts with your parents. Most definitely starts with your parents.
Yeah.
And then as a society, why is it undervalued? Because as we know, men, you're the muscle. You're the muscle. We look at you as the muscle, the physical. We don't look at you as the heart or the, but we all want that from you. We all want you to express feelings and write us poetry, right? That's especially when it comes to relationships, right? Women always want this magical man that expresses feelings and writes poetry and does all this, but you also want them to do the heavy lifting, do all the work and do all this and then have no feelings after. It's not how that works. Allow men to be on an equal playing field with expressing themselves, and maybe just shut up and listen sometimes. Shut up and listen sometimes. Sometimes that's what it takes, is to shut up and listen. And we're talking about not just in your partner, we're talking about society. Society will try to shut you up, but you have to keep speaking out. Anyways, if you guys are just pulling up, we have so much more to come. This is the season 5 premiere. Y'all are on the season 5 premiere right now of the Red Room Talk. 5 whole seasons, y'all. You can find us every Saturday at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We just discussed why you think men's mental health is so neglected and undervalued in today's society. And now we're going to discuss the impact of men's mental health. Unfortunately, mental health is a topic that is often stigmatized in our society, causing people to associate it with shame. But there's no reason to be ashamed. We wouldn't blame someone who has another disease like cancer or MS or any of the multitude of diseases out there. But why do we place stigma and blame on mental health issues in the brain? That is the epicenter of our body. Mental illness matters as much as any disease, and it could take one's life as easily as any other. In many cases, the stigma is more significant for men. For far too long, society has expected men to man up and repress and bury emotions rather than address them. Boys are taught that men don't cry and need to internalize their feelings and keep their emotions in check. Shaming men for displaying their emotions deprives them of a vital outlet for treating their mental health. An essential component for overall health, for example, depression, can lead to suicidal ideations and, if untreated, suicidal attempts. And with that said, you guys, I did post all the numbers for suicide hotlines of all. We're talking for, LGBT community. We're talking about for veterans, all of them. I covered all my bases, and there is a complete list that is posted on my Instagram. If you ever need that, it is there. I just want to throw that out there. But I'm going to actually show a video to kind of show you an example of some of this toxicity when it comes to mental health with men and being shut down. So just give me just a second. Make sure I have my volume turned up.
You know why I'm like I am with her? Because of what you saw me go through. I didn't know. No, I saw your lifestyle. I grew up in a whorehouse. I grew up in a trap house. Yeah. So all I knew was that. You know what I'm saying? And I love you because you held it down. Like, you did what you had to do. But imagine you never had to. You never had to sleep with your mama 24/7 so you couldn't go in your room. You never had to walk in on you know what I'm saying? The way I was raised, I had to deal with it. I'm still dealing with it because ain't nobody come check me to give me no help. Ain't nobody got me no help.
Can't hear, Jen.
My whole life, in my head. I go through. Come on, go on your side. He hurt. I'm hurt. You hurt. Hold on, you hurt. He hurt. Go blame that on your mama. Go blame that on your daddy. Go blame that on your mama and your dad. I ain't do nothing to you. Your son is hurt. You need to count ability. I can't even go to her. She hard. I can't go to you. You hard.
So I showed that to display that It started at home. That's kind of tough to watch. That's a clear display of not only does that start at home because it started an ongoing thing for him, and now, like he talked about his partner, he can't even talk to her because she's tough on him, and he has never gotten that softness that he needed to be able to express his emotions properly. So now, as a grown man, and especially, let's be honest, this man looks gangster, right? So you know he looks like this strong man, right? You wouldn't think that he would have those kind of problems, but because of the way that he was raised and not ever being allowed that platform to express his emotions properly, now is dealing with it as a grown man in front of the public eye, no less. When I watched that, it definitely it incited an emotion in me, especially to see a strong man with tattoos, and you wouldn't think that he would be feeling that, but that just goes to show that no matter who you are or what you look like, we all have something. There's something, right? And it starts at home. This is going to lead me to my next question. For the men, how did the lack of men's mental health directly impact your relationships? And for women, me and you, how did that affect your relationship with men? So I'm going to go ahead and let the men answer first, whoever wants to pick it up. But how did the lack of men's mental health directly impact you or your relationships?
It took me a while to learn how to open up because I was taught for so long that you it's a form of weakness to show emotions or doubt or tears or disappointment or depression. It affected me early, and I'm glad I broke out of it early, like my early 20s, because for a while I couldn't keep a girlfriend because I kept getting told, you don't care about nothing, or you act like you don't care was just the major thing that I kept getting told in the beginning. You act like you don't care because I didn't know how to show emotions and let my guard down at all. So yeah, that's how it affected me personally.
Yeah.
Mm.
I think as for me, see, I was my situation being raised. I was raised, my father and my mother had been married 50 plus years, and my father would always he showed emotion as a young boy. I grew up seeing my father, um, crying, or like if he was going through something, crying, showing emotion, um, showing weakness or whatnot. So I grew up seeing that, and so it was always okay for me to be able to express my emotions. So I think it's definitely it's a for the men, the fathers that are out here that are on the stream, you know you start what your son sees and how he is how he's going to be as a grown man is what you're demonstrating as his father while he's young, and so now that as and affecting my relationships a lot because I would become I saw no issue being emotional and expressing my emotions, but at the same time I had to learn to manage my emotions at the same time, what I'm saying, where it's not to get like over emotional and still put it with still this the masculine like nature, add that masculine, that being a man, handling my responsibilities, taking handling my priority, taking care of my priorities, all of that. So I had to like really learn to do those things. But I thank God that I had a father that showed me that it's okay to be weak, and it's okay because it's through that weakness that's where that's where we're strong. What I'm saying, that's where we find strength. And I find my strength in the Lord. But if I'm never weak, I can't get that point. If I never admit my weakness, I can't find that strength and allow Him to be my strength. So that's what the message I try to spread to men. So
Yeah, I mean that's an awesome question. I think how it impacted my relationships was I think it kind of shaped the way I picked women. Um, like I'm gonna just go back to the conception of the relationship. I think when I really didn't understand the value of mental health and being whole as a single man prior to choosing a woman to share time, life, share finances with. It kind of shaped how I picked her. I didn't have that example, as a young man of a man crying or a man being vulnerable with another woman. I learned it. Fortunately, I kind of learned that from coaches, pastors, guidance counselors. I learned it through sports, and as he said, I'm only as strong as my team, but they have to know what my weakness is. So I had to show like, yo, I don't know this, or I had to show vulnerability with my team in order for them to know how to cover me, in the area of weakness. So I kind of learned it that way, but I didn't have that demonstration in my household. But how that in turn impacted relationships was the women that I chose. I kind of felt like, at times I had to choose a woman that I felt comfortable enough with being, like, trying to be emotional vulnerable with. If I felt like she was very boisterous or very, talking out the side of her neck, and she ain't, what I'm saying? If she was just a little too much to handle, I already knew, like, it's no way for me to even be comfortable enough to try to be vulnerable with her. So it really slimmed down the amount of women that I would choose from. But even in those relationships, I think that um, I tried to do it many times. And I think that if she messed up once, there was no grace. And I feel like that's unfair. You know what I'm saying? If she just missed the mark one time, I was very hesitant with going back and giving her a second chance. So, that kind of impacted my relationship like that.
Wait, no, me.
Okay, go
I was
ahead. Go ahead.
going. Go ahead, you way.
No, I already went.
Okay, so how it affected my relationship. I actually dealt with somebody that was from a broken home. And the way it affected my relationship with him was it was very verbally abusive, and emotionally abusive because of the mental health issue that he wasn't accepting of because of what he had went through with dealing with the divorce of his parents, the toxic relationship, and the physical abusive relationship that his parents had. Um, it filtered down into our relationship, which caused a lot of turmoil, which I now feel like has trickled down to our child. So all I can do is make sure that my son is okay, hoping that his father gets the help that he needs. But when someone is set in their ways and they're not ready to help themselves, there's nothing that I can do as a woman to but urge him to go get help that he needs.
Agree. So for me, I was married before. I was married for 6 years, and I was with a man who had mental health issues. He was bipolar, manic depressive, and he had a borderline personality disorder. A lot of stuff. So how that affected me was his unwillingness. He didn't decide to go get help until it was in a point of our marriage was in danger. When it started affecting, when it got to a place where he was acting out of character or doing things that are not healthy, we'll just say, to save face for him. But it affected me because of his lack of, like, he would get to a place where he would be better, right? But then he would stop taking meds, or he would stop the therapy because he was better. Oh, I'm definitely being nice. But it would stop him from progressing. He would get to a place where he was no longer progressing with it. He would think, okay, well, I'm better, so now is, but it didn't get better, because you have to stay consistent with things like that. You're not just going to get cured from bipolar. You're not going to just get cured from these disorders. It takes work every day, and if you're not willing to put the work in, I was fighting for both of us. And you can't fight for somebody who doesn't fight for themselves. And most of the time, that I did when I did stay, even through the things that I was going through and the things that he put me through. I stayed because it was out of guilt, because I felt like if I leave this man after he's just diagnosed with all these things, am I leaving a sick man? And there was a lot of guilt there. So it affected me because I felt stuck, because he wasn't putting himself in a position to even win. He wasn't putting himself in a position to get better, because he always was stunting himself, and I couldn't drag us along for both of us. I couldn't help him heal. He had to put the work in. You can only push someone so far. I can push you to go get your hair cut. Okay. I can tell you every day, but I can't push you to go to therapy. I can't push you to take your meds every day. I can't do that. You have to do that. And that's why it affected me, because I felt like I was in a position where I was in a lose-lose situation. Because I'm either losing because I'm going to cause a fight, and then that fight is going to cause even more strife for my life. And it was affecting my mental health at that point now. You know what I'm saying? It was affecting my mental health. So now we have two people who are not mentally healthy living together, trying to be in a relationship where he didn't want to get help and I was stuck. So honestly, it was just the unwillingness. It was the unwillingness to see. But people who are sick, especially, they don't see it as they're any different, or that they're feeling it because they don't know any different. You know what I mean? And I think that's something my mother had to come to me and talk to me about, because I'm like, Mom, well, why can he talk to me? That he just has to know. He has to see that I'm this great woman. He has to say. But sick people don't think that way. Sick people don't see themselves as sick. They don't see themselves because they don't feel any different. They don't seem any different to themselves, right? They just have felt how they've always felt. You are sick.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I like to say something on that point real quick if I can.
Sure.
Sometimes I question though, if a person is unwilling, or if they're just confused on how to get out of it.
Right.
And I think there's a difference in that. A lot of times, I think people know that they need help. They know that they're not right, and they need to find a way. Yeah, sometimes they're confused. They don't have the confidence or the courage to do it, or they lack self-awareness. So I just want to throw that out. A lot of times, and that's where I think really knowing thyself comes into play, and having accountability partners to kind of help you see yourself. So there's men out there that struggles with, why show my back so much? I want to get right. Maybe they just don't know how.
But they don't know how.
They don't have that. They don't have that support system. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
When I think about that, right, I think about like, okay, so say your house is really dirty, right? Like, you ever seen Hoarders? This is where I kind of think about it, but I think of it in a mental capacity. I don't know if you've ever seen. Have you guys seen Hoarders? Let me know. But when their house is to that extent, right? They don't even know where to start because it's such a mess there and it's everywhere. How can I clean something and that's everywhere? There's no place to start. And I think maybe like what you just said is correct. And that's something I had to think about too. Like, where do you start when it's such a mess? There's so much. It's everywhere. I've done messed up. I've done messed up with my wife. I've messed up with my family. So at some point, there's so much clutter. How do you begin to unclutter when you don't know, when it's something that I said, like, it feels normal to you? They don't feel any different, right? They feel normal because this is how they've always felt. So how do you change something that you didn't even know was wrong until it was brought to your attention by somebody else?
Yeah.
And then it starts to feel like an attack on you. It feels like an attack on you. It doesn't feel like you're here to help me. Now you're attacking me because of something that I feel and I don't feel any different. So I definitely, I thank you for bringing up that point. And that's just kind of how I have to think about it. It's like a mental clutter. It's a mental hoarding. It's a mental, you're holding on to these things that you went through, or this, not even just mentally ill people, but even me, myself. I'll be very open with you guys. I deal with things on this very app, right? And there's times I have to take a mental vacation from y'all, and not y'all specifically. But just from this, life can be hard. So you have to do, what did I have to do? I had to remove myself for a few days and declutter, start to clean up the mess. And that's not just talking about this app, but just in general, my own life things. We're humans behind this screen. So, I think about that, like I said, and just in the way of like hoarding or just like a mess, like you have to start keeping what's important, what means something, and get rid of the things, the negative things that doesn't matter. You know what I mean? If I can't change it within 15 minutes right now, don't worry about it. When you worry about something, you actually put yourself through it twice. So I think something is kind of the same for men, like especially in my case. He didn't know how to declutter. And I couldn't hold that, but I also couldn't stick around to see what happened beyond the help. If you can't help somebody, you have to also remove yourself. It came down to him or me, and I had to choose me. And I think sometimes that's the end result. It's not always going to go well, but you have to put the work in. If you guys are just pulling up, y'all, this is the season 5 premiere of the Red Room Talk. I do want to first of all thank all you men, and thank you also, Queen, for being here, because this is a sensitive subject. So I do applaud all of you for coming and being able to be open and vulnerable with us here tonight, because that is huge. The show is on every Saturday at 10 p.m. You guys haven't missed much. We just discussed why you think men's mental health is so neglected and undervalued, and how the impact of lack of men's mental health are on both parties. But we're going to move on to understanding. I'm going to read a few quotes coming from actual men across America, and how they feel about men's mental health. I'm not going to say their names for anonymity, but we get angry, we get depressed, we get sad, we want to cry and be held at times too. Being told by one of my exes that real men don't cry when I was at a really low point only further pushed me down the dark hole. Please don't do that. That stuff hurts and sticks with us too. When we tell women that we don't know how we feel about something, it's usually true. And we genuinely don't understand how we are supposed to feel. I personally wasn't allowed to express my emotions growing up, and it turned me into not being able to understand my emotions. Our feelings get hurt, but we were trained to suck it up and deal with it. Because of that, we have a tendency to be really bad at communicating our feelings. And the last one, just because I joke about my emotions doesn't mean I don't want them to be taken seriously. And I read all of these to ask, for the men, what is one thing you wish women understood that would help them understand the importance of men's mental health? And I'll let them answer first, but then I want to ask you, Queen, how does that make you feel hearing what they're about to say? So I'm going to let you gentlemen go ahead and answer, and then we'll give it to Queen after that. So your question is, what is one thing you wish women really understood that would help them understand the importance of mental health, coming from a man's standpoint?
I think that one thing is many men because many men haven't seen their fathers, expression, emotion. I talked before about, I was, blessed to be able to have a father that expressed emotion, which made me feel comfortable expressing emotion. Many men haven't seen that, and their conversations, when we get around each other, they're very surface level. Like, a lot of the conversations aren't about like the deep things in life that we need to be talking about. So like when a lot of women, when you get around your girls, it's like, oh, this is what's going on. You're sharing your heart, like, girl, and I'm going through this, and he did this, and it's like, girl, I'm here for you. I'm supporting you. Whereas our conversations, it's just, yeah, everything good? Oh yeah, everything's good, bro. Or more like cars, or if you're into, video games, or just very surface level type things. And so that's one thing that, I want women to know, because I always admire that about women in their conversations, because men, we need to do more of that. And for men, I think that's one thing that we need to do more of, is really just coming together and talking about these deep things, because you can't, as a woman, many men, if all you've heard is your mother, say things growing up, you tend to be desensitized to a woman trying to build you up in these ways. So it's like you need to see a man actually doing those things. And so as men, we need to, this is the time to really step up. And when you have these conversations with each other, to open up, to start this, that's where it starts, with these conversations that we're having with each other about things that are deeper, deeper things that are going to encourage us and to keep us going forward. So that's what I would say. So.
Oh man, my wheels are turning in a lot of different directions right now. But I think I'll say, if it's something I really wish women would truly understand and embrace, is you have to be patient. I mean, you have to be extremely patient, because if we're trying to figure it out, right? You can tell when a man is being, like, if he's truly trying to work through it, or if um he's gaslighting. So you really got to kind of discern that a little bit. Like, is he really trying to figure this thing out? How can I support him as he figures it out? Or is he just giving a bunch of excuses and just kind of gaslighting it? You know what I'm saying? So you got to be gentle with that. But I think the common denominator is patience, and don't come off as being a mother. I think that, as men, we got moms. We came into this earth through her womb, and if she was active in our lives, she taught us how to do chores, how to clean, and she really did her motherly thing. So the last thing I think a man wants is for his significant other to try to parent him. So it's a difference between encouraging and parenting. And I think men need that push to try to get on the right path. But they don't need a second mother. So, and and I know it's not easy for women. I've had this conversation with women from my past, and I've shared it with women that was in relationships, outside of, just I'm friends with. It's hard for you to find that balance, but I think between patience and really being mindful of not being his mother, but really being his helpmate and being his support system, if you can master that, I think you're doing pretty good.
One thing I would like for women to know is that we hurt too. Like, words hurt. Like, stop kicking us while we down. Like, if we took the time to, like, open up and tell you what's going on, don't make me feel sorry for even opening up and telling you. I think a lot of women do that.
Man, I could have never said nothing, man. Like,
Right, like, I shouldn't have
Yeah.
told you, Jack. And then when you find out something that I didn't tell you, you're gonna wonder why. Because when I tried to tell you before, you laughed at it, or you blew it off, or it wasn't as important to you as it was to me because you wasn't being considerate of my feelings. That's one thing I would tell women. Just me personally.
With what you read, with what you read and what all the gentlemen have said, the way I feel about that and what I take from that, one is patience. I have patience with my child because uh, he does have cerebral palsy. But like Mr. Everything said, a man wants a partner. A man wants a support system. If they wanted their mother, they would still be in their mother's house, dealing with their mother on a daily, putting their mother all in their business, and it's up to the woman to really step back and be attentive and really listen to what the man is saying and how he's feeling. If your man is coming home on a daily and he doesn't like his job, be encouraging, and really listen and understand, like G-Way said, yes, you guys have feelings just like women do, but sometimes women put that to the side because all they're thinking about is themselves, because they think that, oh, well, a man, he's strong, he don't have no feelings, he don't have no emotions, all he needs to do is make the money and come home and take care of the honey-do list that I give him. They're not thinking of, oh, well, he's tired, he may be in pain. You never know who said something to him at work that might have set him off, that he's not trying to bring back home to you, because you are supposed to be his sanctuary. And that's what it should be. You should be able to not give your man peace, but give him a peace of mind. He already should be at peace within himself. And if he's not, then you need to allow him the opportunity to open up and be open to that and have your heart still open instead of judging them. That's just all I have to say.
Well put. Well put.
I agree that obviously patience, right, is patience is a virtue. So definitely taking more time to be patient with your partner, especially when it's someone was never given that opportunity to speak in a household. And this is something I've dealt with men who have had unsupportive mothers, not just mothers, but absent father and unsupportive mothers, kind of a double whammy. So when you know, like, you're dealing with someone who's been through some trauma, not only being patient, but encouraging. Like, as much as we want reassurance, your man probably wants reassurance too, to let them know, you know what, babe, I really appreciate you for all that you do. I really appreciate when they do come to you. I appreciate you for being open and honest with me. I appreciate you for being vulnerable with me, just letting them know, like, encouraging. But like I said earlier, and it sounds harsh, but also shut up sometimes. Let them speak. Not everything has to have a reply. Like, babe, I'm going to be quiet because I really want to hear you and I want to take it in and I want to listen. So I'm going to allow you to vent. And if you want feedback, I'll give it. But if you don't and you just want to vent, let me know, because I can do that too. So really just, I think, hearing your partner out, hearing what they have to say, and then taking heed to it later. You know what I'm saying? Really take it in, because a lot of people really listen to reply, not to understand. So take it from a place of understanding. Don't ever take it as a hit at you or a jab at you when they're expressing something, especially if it's something that comes from you. Like, this is how I feel when this happens. You know what I'm saying? And not coming from a place of fighting, but you might be triggering him in a way too. Like, we are not the only ones that are be treated as queens. I think we often forget that they want to be treated well too. They want to be treated like a king and like they matter and like what they're doing is doing something. Like, babe, I applaud your hard work every day. I see you. Like, they want to be seen too, as that their efforts are not in vain. So I think more than just patience, but understanding and listening, active listening, not just listening to reply. Just listen sometimes. Because that sometimes is hard enough for them to even speak on things that they don't speak about. So I think it being encouraging, active listening, respect, and acknowledgement. I want to acknowledge them. Acknowledge that you know that what they just did was something. And of course, and then also lifting your man up. Appreciation goes a long way. It truly does. And I think we always want to be doted on as females and appreciated and told we're beautiful and queens and pretty and all that. And we are. But should our men not get the same respect that we get? I think that kind of should go without saying. Why do we not give the same treatment that we would want to give to our women? Why do men not get that same respect? Man, you're supposed to be a man's peace. He don't want to come home and fight World War III with you when he's at his job fighting the world. Especially as Black men, you already are fighting the world and society. You don't want to come home to round 3 with your wife.
Right.
So I'm gonna throw this in there real quick, because those things sound good in concept, right? They brief well, is how I'll put it. But I think the reason why women miss the mark so much is because they're usually offended by something else outside of his mental health concern. For instance, he didn't take the trash out, or he didn't call because he was late 3 hours. He missed a recital. He missed, the anniversary. So what happens, I think, is a woman knows that. I think
important at that point. Your mental health matter.
You need to set your stuff aside at that point and really listen. That's why I said active listening.
Right.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So, and I think that's where that sacrifice comes in, which sacrifice is not comfortable. And I think women have to sacrifice the importance of what he failed to do at that point in time if he is trying to express himself if he's trying to be vulnerable at that time, and it's not easy. And I will leave them with how you do that to better understand a man is you kind of what I do. I think when I'm talking to women about active listening is if she's saying something that I don't understand, like I hear what you're saying, but it's not adding up, I just repeat back to her and just say, so what I hear you saying is XYZ, is that what you're saying? To me, that's active listening. I'm trying to actively, I hear what you're saying, but I don't quite understand what you mean. There's issues within hearing something and understanding what they meant. So if you just ask him, hey, I heard this, is this what you truly mean? Allow him to clarify. Maybe that'll help women better understand, man.
Yeah. Right.
And in that moment, you have to table anything else that is going on outside of that conversation. And I think a lot of people, because when it comes down to conversation, you're really attacking each other. You're not even attacking the problem half of the time. So I think especially when you even are, and I'm going to be honest, I'm honored when a man comes to me to express his feelings. Do you know how, especially a Black man to come to me and express his feelings? When I first started the show and how I developed this show, I'll never forget. I'm having a conversation and I had an occasion, he was in the comments, he was there. I had 4 Black men in my box speaking on real life issues and conversations and their feelings. And it was beautiful. It was beautiful. I promise you, and it was at a time, I remember Kobe had just passed, and it was the first time. And why I want to have these conversations is because when Kobe passed, it was the first time that I see men openly express sorrow, openly express emotion. And it was beautiful to me. It was beautiful. It was bittersweet though, because not only was it sad, because man, is this what it took? Something like this, it took something like that to get men to open up, but it also was a very public thing. But to see men express emotion, it was also beautiful to me, because it's something that I didn't get to see very often. And that was growing up in a home full of men. I was the only girl. So I have a very high regard for men anyways, as it is. But to see men and just publicly see men express their emotions was by far wow to me. But we're going to move on. If you're just pulling up, this is the season 5 premiere, y'all, of the Red Room Talk. Whole 5 of them things. You can find us every Saturday at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You guys have not missed much. We do still have more to come. We just discussed why do you think men's mental health is so neglected, why the lack of men's mental health has on both parties. And then now we're going to talk about obstacles. Sorry, y'all. This is a deep one. How are men and women's emotional needs inherently different? Stating it plain and simple, men deal with emotions differently than women, like really different. Emphasizes Rich Drobnik, director of the Mars and Venus Counseling Center. He says men's and women's brains are wired differently. Our hormones are different and our emotional needs are different. So when it comes to relationship, he explains men tend to do for women what men need, and women do for men what women need. We tend to give what we want to receive, and therein lies the problem. No matter how old we get, whether we are working to a better long-term relationship or starting over again at 50, unless someone educates us about the differences, emotional needs, and not do unto our other as we should have do unto us, we continue to end up in a frustrated state of resentment and feel stuck. It is truly difficult to understand and accept our partner's different set of emotional needs, because I think a lot of times we're trying to love someone in our love language and the way we need to be loved, instead of figuring out what it is that they need to be loved. And that's why it's so important to get to know your partner, especially your male partner, for us women, the way they need to be loved, just from things they've been through and such, because it's important to actually listen and pay attention. Because people speak in different ways. It's not just verbally, but people speak in physical cues, how their body language is. So really pay attention. But what I want to know is, what are some obstacles that men face that make it difficult for men to practice mental health maintenance? What are some obstacles that you face that make it difficult for you to practice mental health maintenance? And then I'll follow up a question for you, Queen.
I'll take lead on this one, I guess. I've embraced it now. I would say in my earlier years, obstacles that I guess I faced was, um, I guess it's hard to do something a lot of times when you never seen it. When you're kind of the first person that's embracing a new concept, something that's not. I mean, for one, it's scary. To know that you got things that you need to process, you got past trauma, whether that's from like deployments or a divorce or just seeing death or whatever it is that kind of traumatize you, to sit and embrace those thoughts, that takes courage within itself. And then two, to do that without an example, I mean, that's difficult, and it's already tough with those two aspects, and then society frowns upon it. Some women, I don't want to generalize, don't quite understand it, so they can't really help you, right? So you got so many different things, so many fences that you try to jump over, and you try to figure a lot of that stuff out by yourself. And fortunately with me, my faith helped me a lot, really understanding that my power and my strength comes from my faith. But without my faith, I don't know if I would really just be doing routine mental maintenance. Like I've embraced it, over the last few years. But I think those are the main obstacles. Jesus Christ is my faith. But I think that those obstacles, I just listed about five. That's a lot of things that we got kind of got to navigate and jump hurdles to get through. So that's kind of what I'll say.
For sure.
I think for me, similar to Mr. Everything, obstacle for me is just um, being in a society which does make it difficult for um, men just to be vulnerable, and the society that says it's not okay to be vulnerable. Um, Thankfully, I was raised where it's okay um, to express emotions, express how I'm feeling, um, and also even like as a man, even like like culture that I'm in, as far as like counseling, going out and getting counseling, like it's okay to go out. Counseling is okay. I had to, as I've gotten older, I've able to see and reap the benefits of going to a counselor and seeing how it helps just to sit and talk about things that you just wouldn't talk about on a regular basis. But just in my own culture, that wasn't like, talked about, as being like, oh, counseling's okay, or this and that, so I had to, that's something that I've, learned, um, and through, and really through Mr. like similar to Mr. Everything, my faith um, is in Christ, and through that, through my faith, I've literally asked God for guidance in what, and making sure that I'm dealing with everything within me, because I don't want my future wife to have to experience any of my past hurt or my past trauma. So I want to make sure everything is dealt with and all those obstacles are taken care of, so that I'm not passing on, and then you know to my, my future. So I just think it's important just to go through those self-exploratory things, just analyze yourself, analyze your past, and then deal with it. But you can't deal with whatever, you can't deal with what you haven't, what you don't feel. So you got to feel it, and then you have to deal with it. And prayer works too. So.
For sure.
Yeah, my thing, I'm fine with it now. I've learned to like deal with it and accept it and realize, I have the right to be who I need to be, you know, better out than in. But before, my biggest obstacle was pretty much like the rest of the fellas was saying, judgment, fear of what the next person is going to think, what the next person is going to say. How are you going to look at me? How are you going to judge me? Will you view me different? Will you act different towards me? That was the biggest obstacle for me before, because I always, before, when I was younger, wanted approval. I didn't want no female to look at me as a weak guy, or none of my homeboys to look at me like, oh boy, you sensitive, or like it's, and like sex Lex touched on earlier, like I feel like it's a shame that fellas can't get together and have conversations like we having right now.
Mhm.
You start talking about men's mental health in the barbershop, and you about to make the whole barbershop go quiet these days. Like
Right.
they gonna
Right.
just stop talking altogether. Like,
Right.
and I think it shouldn't be like that, in my opinion.
I agree. So my counter question for us, Queen, is what do you think men need from us as women to help break down those obstacles?
Mm. The first thing, like you said, just shut up. Shut up and listen. Be supportive. Don't sit there and continuously harp on one thing that that man is saying. Listen to the extent of everything that he's saying. Try to understand what he's saying. Because if you can't understand it, then you can't help him. You can't help him want to better himself. And as that man's partner, you should want more for him than he wants for himself. You should be able to see the potential and help him to guide down that path, but also to know that he's not alone and he can express how he feels and what he's going through without being judged or being thought of as weak and or thinking that his pride is being hurt. Like really listen and understand, hey, it's not about me. And the only way for me as a woman to be in a healthy relationship is to make sure that my king is healthy, to make sure that my king is healthy mentally, emotionally, physically, all of that. Because if he's not that, and I can't be that for him, I can't help him be stronger than he wants to be for himself. All I can do is be strong and be that backbone. Be there in faith with him, and like all the gentlemen have said, prayer does work. Prayer is something that you should do with your partner, to know that even if you can't be there with your partner in that one moment that he may need you mentally and emotionally, that he can still be in his faith and still have someone that is not going to judge him and love him unconditionally, and just love your man unconditionally, wholeheartedly. you know that's all I have to say about that.
So I have two quotes. The key to learning is an awareness of where you lack understanding. And also, peace cannot be kept by force. It can only be achieved by understanding. And the moral of that is have an understanding of where your man is at. Meet them where they're at. Really meet them where they're at, especially in the moment. Be with them exactly where they're at. Be with them in that moment and allow them to say what they need to say, even if it might hurt your feelings, because let's be honest, sometimes the truth hurts our feelings even as women. So allow them to have that safe space to come and really listen to understand. I'm going to go over that again. Listen to understand, not to reply. I think to break down those barriers, we really are going to have to take a step back and really just listen and to understand. And I think that's really the only thing that you can really do. And then be a voice for your man when he don't have one. When he has a hard time expressing himself, that's when you're out here talking like I am right now. I'm an advocate for all the men who cannot speak for themselves right now, because that's why I'm doing this show. I'm doing this show for every man who has ever kept something silent, for every man who has ever felt something and he couldn't speak on it. That's why we're here tonight, so we can start talking on these things, so we can get these men to start speaking. I want you all to feel comfortable. And even if any of you who are here tonight need someone, I am more than comfortable. I would rather listen to you for 15 minutes than listen to a 20-minute eulogy. I would rather listen to what you have to say. and I will listen. I will just listen. If you want advice, that's a whole nother situation. But I'm fine to just be a sounding board for you to listen. So for me, I think it's just really understanding and being an advocate for your partner or your brother or your uncle or whoever it is that you're thinking of when it comes to men. Your trauma is not an excuse for failing to take responsibility. Even though suffering a traumatic experience may have an impact on your thinking behavior, it is still your job to make sure these events don't wreak havoc in your lives and your relationships. This doesn't mean men are admitting fault for what happens, or means simply in spite of it, they still owe it to themselves to take back their power over situations and continue to lead happy and fulfilling lives. I'm going to dive right into my next question, y'all. This is the Red Room Talk. You can find us every Saturday at 10 p.m. But what I want to know is, do you think some men make excuses for not taking accountability for healing and dealing with trauma? Why or why not? And this is open to the floor.
Definitely. Definitely. I've dealt with several that don't want to take accountability for their actions. And then when asked, like, why would you do something like this? Or why would you do what you did? And it's always, oh, well, I saw my dad do it to my mom, or, my brother and his girl. You know what I mean? It's always deflected because they don't want to accept and acknowledge that, yeah, you just did what you did, and I'm calling you out on what you did and as to why you did it. And you can't give me an explanation because all you want to do is deflect to other people that you want to blame instead of being held accountable for your own actions.
And I think that's why it's so important as a man, to have a faith walk, because you need some kind of moral compass that's causing you to even want to do better or be better for your future. And so because of me, like my faith, that's why, because it's like, if without that, it's like, and this is like what you were saying, Mr. Everything. It's like, why would I want to change? I've been fine, but when you have that faith, that relationship with the Lord, it's like, okay, I want to be better for my future because this is what God's calling me to do. He's calling me to be better. You know what I'm saying? And I know the importance. I don't want to pass down any generational, because generational curses are real. I don't want to pass this down to my kids or their kids' No, it stops here with me. So God changed me so I can change the cycle. You know what I'm saying? And I can be the type of man that my wife can look at, you know what I'm saying? And she can be like that Proverbs 31 woman, and I can, we can encourage each other. And so that's what, so I think it's important. That's why I just think it's really important for men to have that faith walk.
For sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's spot on. And I think I agree. I agree. I think men do make excuses. Some men, like I say all, but some men do hide behind that, and they kind of shift the accountability, towards past trauma, or even blame their current partner for why they react. And I like to lead with, at the end of the day, trauma happens to everybody. You know what I'm saying? Everybody has been through something, but the responsibility to heal is always on you. You have to own your own healing. You have to take responsibility for that. And I think when I talk to women who say that, yeah, he's hiding or he's shifting blame and all this stuff, I know it's true. I know it's true. And you, just like Lex said, that season of singleness is so important. Like, man, it is so important. You really have to, you got to do that shadow work while you're by yourself, while you're not responsible for keeping tabs on your old lady or buying her a gift for anniversaries. And did I date her this week? And is she happy? No, 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 no. While I'm by myself, I need to do my shadow work, and I need to do what it takes for me to be whole. So when I do meet her, I'm 100%. I'm not bringing 50 to the relationship. I'm bringing 100% of me, right, and my faith and my experience and all that stuff, so that, we're ready to rock. Like, we're good. So
I ain't nothing left to say after that. I mean, they pretty much summed it up. I'm just gonna agree with them. I'm gonna say yes because there's nothing much more for me to add to that. Like, it's pretty much self-explanatory. Y'all hit it right on the head with that, for real, for
Yes. I'm gonna leave it there too. I think you guys summed it up.
real.
I mean, there were really not much more to say. I definitely agree. I definitely agree. If you guys are just pulling up, we are close to the end, y'all, but we are now. I need all of you here in the audience. Do not leave yet. I know we are nearing the end of the feature box, but do not leave because I need you guys as the audience to interact here for just a moment, okay? If you are just pulling up, this is the season 5 premiere of the Red Room Talk, which you can find every Saturday at 10 p.m. You're definitely late. We are discussing tonight's topic, men's mental health, the double-sided mirror. We are now at the hottest part of the night, y'all. The hottest part of the night. When you hear that sound, that means we are at our hot seat question segment, y'all. We are doing things a little different this season. Our hot seat question is now left up to the fate of the audience. Yes, the fate of the audience, y'all. I went to Instagram to ask our peers what they wanted to ask for this week's hot seat question. If you want your question to be featured in next week's episode, make sure that you go to my profile and click the icon and follow me on Instagram and look out for the hot seat question post. Now it's time to enter in the comments who on the panel you want to answer tonight's question. But before I reveal it, I want you all to go ahead and enter in the comments now who you want to answer, and including myself, all on the panel, who you want to answer tonight's hot seat question. I'm gonna go ahead and play a little ditty while you guys enter in the comments who you want to answer the question.
Aquano Sounds Production. What up, Sam?